Room Next to Mine. Chapter 8. I yanked my roommate's duvet and froze at what I saw. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains, painting the flat in pale gold. Jack was already up, hair messy, mug of coffee in one hand. He padded quietly into James's room, the soft creak of the floorboards the only sound. "Oi," Jack called softly, nudging the edge of the bed with his foot. "Time to get up." James groaned, buried deeper under his quilt, face half hidden by the pillow. He didn't budge. Jack sighed, setting his mug down on the bedside table. "Come on, lazy." He reached for the quilt, hesitated for a second, then gave it a gentle tug. The quilt slipped away in one smooth motion, and there, tangled in the sheets, James lay completely naked. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then James's eyes snapped open. His face went from sleepy confusion to horror in a blink. He scrambled to cover himself, hands fumbling to yank the quilt back up, but only managed to expose more skin as he thrashed. Jack's face turned red as he quickly looked away, ears burning. "Shit, sorry, I didn't know." James's voice cracked as he tried to sound casual, but it came out high and breathless. "It's not what it looks like." Jack risked a glance, instantly regretted it as James nearly exposed himself again and snapped his gaze to the ceiling instead. "Since when do you sleep like that?" James's entire neck flushed pink, eyes darting everywhere but Jack's face. Since I found out you sleep naked, okay?" Jack blinked. "What?" James let out a strangled laugh, still clutching the quilt to his chest. "I don't know. You always looked so bloody relaxed in the mornings, and I thought maybe it'd help me sleep better." Jack rubbed the back of his neck, mouth dry, heart hammering in his chest. "And does it?" James's eyes finally met his, wide, embarrassed, but with a hint of defiance. "Yeah, it does." Jack shifted awkwardly, a smile threatening at the corner of his lips. "Well, good for you." A silence settled, thick and hot. James cleared his throat. "Could you maybe pass me my trackies?" Jack nodded quickly, nearly tripping over himself as he grabbed the pants off the chair. Their hands brushed as he handed them over, a spark of something electric crackling between their skin. Neither mentioned it, but both felt it. James yanked the trackies on under the quilt, face still red as a beetroot. Jack hovered awkwardly by the door, arms crossed tight, doing his best not to look like he was sneaking glances. When James finally emerged from the cocoon of sheets, hair a mess and cheeks pink, Jack couldn't help but let out a short laugh, half relief, half something else. "Stop looking at me like that," James mumbled, pulling the waistband tight. "Like what?" Jack asked, voice low and teasing. "Like you caught me in the middle of, I don't know, something." Jack stepped closer, eyes glinting. "Well, you did look pretty comfortable, all sprawled out and naked." James's mouth fell open. Jack leaned in, just enough that James could feel his breath, and smirked. "You were blushing in your sleep, you know." James swallowed hard. I wasn't." "You were." Jack's voice dropped even lower, almost a whisper. "And it was cute." James's breath stuttered, hands twitching by his sides like he couldn't decide whether to shove Jack away or pull him closer. Jack's smirk softened. "Next time, maybe give me a heads up before you decide to sleep, Starkers." James shoved his shoulder lightly, but it was weak, more flustered than annoyed. "Next time, maybe knock first." Jack's hand caught James's wrist before he could pull away, holding it just a little too long. "I'll think about it." Their faces hovered there, close, hungry, but neither made the final move. Not yet. The kitchen filled with quiet sounds, the pop of the toaster, the hum of the kettle. Jack stood by the bench top in a loose white singlet, the fabric soft and rumpled from sleep, forearms tensing slightly as he buttered toast. James hovered near the doorway, arms crossed, trying to look casual, and failing. Every now and then their eyes met. Neither spoke. The air felt thick, like a thunderstorm waiting to break. James cleared his throat. So, you always cook half naked after nearly giving your flatmate a heart attack. Jack's mouth curved into a small lopsided smile. Only when said, flatmate sleeps naked first. James groaned, burying his face in his hands. I hate you. You don't, Jack said quietly, voice smooth, teasing but warm. James's head snapped up, eyes sharp. What makes you so sure? Jack paused, the butter knife in his hand hovering over the toast. He looked over his shoulder, eyes steady, unguarded. Because you'd have moved out by now if you did. James's breath caught. Silence fell again, but it was a different kind, softer, more electric. Jack set the plate of toast on the table, leaning on his hands as he watched James approach. James sat opposite, gaze flicking between Jack's eyes and his lips before he forced himself to stare at the toast instead. His foot brushed Jack's under the table, accidentally, at first, but neither pulled away. They ate in that charged quiet, every glance a question, every small touch a spark. Jack's knee knocked James's once, twice, and lingered on the third time. James's hand slipped on his mug, sloshing tea over his fingers. Jack reached across instantly, catching James's wrist, thumb brushing warm skin. Neither spoke, neither moved. The moment hung, taut, fragile, sweet. Then Jack pulled back, clearing his throat roughly. We should get ready for class. James nodded, eyes still wide, cheeks pink. Yeah. Right. They stood, moving around each other in the small kitchen with a carefulness that only made the space between them feel even smaller, neither willing to break the tension, neither ready to cross the line. Not yet. The next day the rain came in softly that morning, misting the windows in pale grey and filling the flat with the gentle hush of falling drops. Jack sat on the floor in front of the couch, legs stretched long across the worn rug. He moved lazily, rolling his shoulders, dressed only in black boxer briefs and the same thin white singlet that clung faintly to the shape of him. His hair was messy, still carrying the softness of sleep. James sat curled up on the couch behind him, phone in hand, pretending to scroll, but his eyes kept slipping downwards, tracing the curve of Jack's neck, the line of his shoulders, the way the singlet rode up just enough to reveal a sliver of toned lower back when Jack shifted. Jack leaned back on his palms, head tipping until he could glance up over his shoulder. His eyes caught James's, and he raised an eyebrow. You okay there, mate? James jumped slightly, almost dropping his phone. Yeah, he croaked, clearing his throat. Just tired. Jack's mouth curled into a small knowing smirk. Right. He turned his gaze forward again, but the silence that settled between them felt dense. Not awkward, but thick with something unspoken, crackling just under the surface. The steady patter of rain filled the quiet. James set his phone aside, leaning forward slightly, eyes still on the back of Jack's neck. He hesitated, voice low. You want a coffee? Jack nodded once, his gaze fixed ahead, but James caught the way his fingers flexed against the rug. Tense, restless. Yeah, Jack said quietly. I'd love one. James stood, and Jack's eyes followed him this time, lingering on the soft stretch of James's shirt across his shoulders, the bare skin that flashed when he reached up to scratch his back, the waistband of his pajama bottoms dipping just a touch lower than they should. Jack let out a slow breath, raking a hand through his tangled hair. His voice was almost inaudible beneath the soft drum of rain. What the hell is happening to me? From the kitchen, the sound of cups clinked faintly, and the air between them felt like it might snap, with the weight of everything they still hadn't said. Steam still clung to the mirror when James stepped into the bathroom. The rain outside tapped gently on the window, filling the quiet with its soft rhythm. He froze when he spotted them. Jack's black boxer briefs and singlet, draped casually over the towel rail, still warm from his body. James's heart hammered. He reached out before he could stop himself, fingers trembling as they brushed the fabric. He lifted the singlet closer to his face, breathing in the faint, clean scent of soap mixed with something undeniably Jack. Earthy, familiar, intoxicating. His eyelids fluttered shut. His cheeks burned. Then, the quiet squeak of the bathroom door opening. James's eyes flew open. Jack stood in the doorway, damp hair plastered to his forehead, a towel slung around his hips. His eyes dropped instantly to James's hands, to his singlet held close, like a secret. Their gazes locked. For a moment, neither moved. James's breath came in ragged, shallow bursts. The mortification crashed over him all at once, hot and overwhelming. He dropped the singlet as if it had burned him, backing into the sink with a choked sound. I wasn't... His voice broke. Jack stepped forward, the look on his face unreadable, somewhere between stunned and painfully tender. James, I'm sorry. James gasped, eyes shining, unable to look away but desperate to hide. His voice wavered on the edge of a sob. God, I'm so bloody embarrassed. I don't know what's wrong with me. Jack's hand hovered in the air for a second, then settled gently on James's cheek, thumb brushing a tear that slipped free. There's nothing wrong with you, he said softly, voice hoarse. Nothing. James's eyes flicked up, wide and wet, meeting Jack's. But you saw... Jack stepped even closer, close enough that the steam-warmed air felt electric between them. I know what I saw, he murmured, voice low, deep. His hand dropped from James's cheek to rest lightly on his shoulder. And it doesn't scare me. The silence that followed was heavy, fragile, full of things neither knew how to say. James let out a shaky breath. His hand rose hesitantly, fingers brushing Jack's chest just above the towel. Jack sucked in a quiet breath at the touch. Jack, James whispered, voice trembling. Jack swallowed hard. His own voice was soft but fierce. You don't have to hide this, not from me. James's eyes filled again, but this time the tears didn't spill. They glistened, caught in the pale morning light. He let his head drop forward until his forehead rested against Jack's bare chest. Jack wrapped his arms around him, careful, comforting, and for the first time in weeks, neither felt alone in the storm brewing inside them. They stood locked together, the bathroom quiet but for the slow drip of the tap and their ragged breaths. Jack's hands cupped James's face, thumbs brushing lingering tears. James's eyes darted from Jack's mouth to his eyes, heart pounding so loud he wondered if Jack could hear it. Jack tilted his head just enough that their noses bumped. A soft teasing brush that made James gasp. Jack's voice dropped, warm and rough. Your face goes all pink when you're embarrassed. Do you know that? James let out a strangled laugh, cheeks flushing deeper. Yeah, well... Whose fault is that? Jack's lips curved in a small, dangerous smile. His thumbs swept slowly over James's cheeks, eyes half-lidded. Could be yours. You're the one sniffing my undies. James squeaked, burying his burning face against Jack's chest. Oh my God, you're never letting that go. Jack chuckled low in his throat, the sound sending a shiver down James's spine. Not a chance. Their bodies stayed close, the space between them charged, every breath, every shift of weight sparking heat. But Jack didn't close the distance completely. Instead, he teased, his breath ghosting over James's lips. You gonna run away? James lifted his head, eyes shining with nerves and defiance. Not this time. Jack's eyes softened, fingers still cradling James's jaw. "Good," he whispered, "because I don't want you to." They lingered like that, so close they could feel each other's heartbeats, yet still suspended, the moment straining with everything unsaid. Neither moved, neither dared to break the tension. And so they stayed, breathing the same air, letting the anticipation burn slow and hot. The air between them stayed taut, heavy with everything they'd nearly said. Jack was the first to move, slowly lowering his hands from James's face but letting them linger on his shoulders. He stepped back just enough to give them both space to breathe, their eyes still locked. James's chest heaved as he sucked in air, every nerve alive. I need a minute," he said softly, voice trembling but honest. Jack nodded, a small understanding smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, me too." They moved past each other in the cramped bathroom, hands brushing lightly, a spark jumping between their skin. James slipped out first, leaning against the hallway wall, head tipped back as he tried to calm his racing pulse. Jack stood in the bathroom doorway, watching him with an unreadable expression. A softness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. No words, no rush, just the quiet shared truth of what had almost happened, and what still might. Outside, the rain drummed gently on the windows, as if the world itself was holding its breath for them. Later that evening, they were sitting cross-legged on Jack's bed, watching YouTube videos on his laptop. The bed was small, and they'd gradually shifted until their thighs touched, neither of them moving away. One video ended, the next didn't load. They looked at each other and didn't look away. Jack's expression changed, softened but intense. James felt it coming. He felt it in his chest, in his throat. Jack's hand lifted, slowly, like he wasn't sure what it was doing, and brushed James's jaw, feather light. James leaned forward. Just a little. Their foreheads touched, breath to breath, one more inch. And then Jack pulled back, suddenly blinking. Sorry, I don't know. "It's okay," James whispered, his heart pounding so loud he could barely hear his own voice. Jack stood quickly. "I'm gonna get some air." And he was gone, leaving James alone, dizzy with something he didn't yet have a name for. Jack stood outside in the courtyard, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his hoodie, the cold biting at his skin, but he barely felt it. His heart was racing. His head was a mess. He'd almost kissed him. And worse, he wanted to. He had never thought about another boy like that. Never questioned himself, not once. But James? There was something different about him. Something quiet, magnetic, safe. Jack ran a hand through his hair and let out a shaky breath. Was this real? Was it confusion? Or was he about to destroy the one good thing in his life? Behind him, he heard the window creak, James's shadow shifting across the room. But Jack didn't go back inside straight away. He wasn't ready to face him. By the time Jack returned, James was curled under the duvet in Jack's bed like nothing had happened. He didn't say anything, just lifted the edge of the blanket wordlessly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jack hesitated at the bedside, then he slipped under the covers, turned toward the wall, and said softly, "Night." James whispered back, "Night." For a few minutes nothing moved, then James shifted closer, his arm brushed against Jack's back, and stayed there. Jack didn't move away. Instead, his fingers found James's hand beneath the covers, quiet, unsure, and held it. Neither of them spoke, but their breathing slowed, falling into the same gentle rhythm, and they didn't let go, not even when sleep finally took them. The following day, James staggered into the flat, clothes plastered to his skin, teeth chattering so violently he couldn't even speak. "Jesus, James," Jack breathed, rushing forward. He caught him by the shoulders, feeling the icy chill radiating off him. "Cold," James managed, eyes glassy, lips tinged blue. Jack peeled off James's soaked jacket and shirt, hands moving quickly but carefully. His palms were clammy with fear. James's skin was freezing to the touch. He guided him to the bedroom, laying him on the bed, then grabbed towels to pat him dry. But the shaking wouldn't stop. Jack tried rubbing his hands along James's arms, massaging his toes, but it wasn't enough. Panic started to claw at his chest. Then Jack remembered an old wilderness survival tip: shared body heat. His eyes flicked to James, pale, shaking, teeth clenched, and his stomach twisted. This was going to mean no space, no escape, just skin against skin under the same fabric until the cold left his bones. And once they were in there, he wasn't sure if the warmth he was worried about was from the sleeping bag or from James himself.